So, everybody is panicking about the coronavirus. So I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to make a video. Well, I think I have found a solution to people panicking. Not to the coronavirus. See, I was thinking, how many people have actually died from coronavirus? Oh dear God. However, wait, what's that? A light at the end of the tunnel? That's right, you guessed it. Coronavirus isn't that deadly when you compare it to other viruses that have been here forever. You'll all be pleased to know that you're completely screwed if one of these happy little fellas catches you on your travels. Number 1. The Marburg virus. Straight out of a science fiction novel, the Marburg virus was first identified by a group of scientists in a lab experiment in Germany in 1967 when a group of infected Ugandan monkeys spread the virus to the human experimenters.
Fly, my pretties, fly!
Marburg virus is quite similar to Ebola in terms of symptoms, in that you get a very high fever and a lot of internal bleeding, which leads to organ failure and ultimately death. The most recent major outbreak of Marburg virus in Angola in 2005, 329 of the 374 total cases resulted in death, giving it a very high mortality rate of 88%. Though, that being said, the mortality rate does seem to vary quite wildly from outbreak to outbreak, from case to case, given that it is a relatively rare virus. Ebola virus. The Ebola virus was first detected in humans in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, again, in 1976. First of all, as with all illnesses, there's a lot of nuance here. There are a number of different strains, different types of Ebola virus. Some strains are practically asymptomatic and others kill up to 70% of those who are infected. But if we're focusing on the most recent major outbreak of Ebola virus in 2014 to 2016 in Western Africa, then we're talking about the Zaire strain of the virus. And even here we can see that the mortality rate varies from country to country and case to case. Basically though, you don't want to get Ebola virus, it basically liquefies your insides. Bet you're all feeling more positive now. Rabies. I've been forgetting to number these. Number 3, rabies. Now the good thing about rabies is, what is the good thing about rabies? The good thing about rabies is that there is a vaccine. So if you happen to get bitten by a rabid animal whilst abroad, because of course in Britain it's been eliminated, except for in bats. Bloody bats. I think bats are a protected species as well. Why? But what about the bad thing about rabies? Well, the bad thing basically is all of the consequences of not getting treatment. It basically turns you into an extremely aggressive zombie as it attacks your nervous system and destroys your brain.
Not my Prime Minister! Not my Prime Minister! Not my Prime Minister! Fascist! Fascist! Racist! Sexist! Fascist! Sexist!
Oh, and also, if untreated, it is 100% fatal. But how likely are you to get rabies? Well, it is most prevalent in India, China, and in third place, you guessed it, the Democratic Republic of Congo. So, while cases in the First World are now virtually unheard of, it's still killing in the tens of thousands every year worldwide. Number 4, HIV. If we're no longer panicking about HIV in the First World, then I think we can safely say that within a fortnight we're going to have forgotten about the coronavirus. It's estimated that around 32 million people have died worldwide since it was detected less than 40 years ago. And while the development of ever more effective antiviral treatment has improved the situation, it is still estimated that around 37.9 million people are living with HIV worldwide, that there are around 1.7 million new cases each year, and somewhere in the region of 770,000 deaths related to HIV worldwide each year. Number 5, smallpox. Yeah, but smallpox was eradicated decades ago. Well, that may be true, but it's also worth bearing in mind what mankind has been able to overcome in the past. So just how bad was smallpox? Well, perhaps the first thing to bear in mind is its relatively high mortality rate. Around 1 in 3 people who were infected with smallpox died. Yeah, that was like 1,000 years ago. A cold would probably have killed you when you were 12. Actually, in fact, the World Health Assembly only declared the world smallpox-free in 1980. But let's leave that aside. Let's look at the 2 in 3 people who were infected by smallpox who didn't die. What happened to them? Well, if you were lucky, and I say that with as little sarcasm as possible, you were horribly scarred for life. If you were not so lucky, you were horribly scarred for life and you went blind. And just so you know, this isn't a disease from the Middle Ages. In the 20th century alone, it is estimated that around 300 million people died worldwide from smallpox, and that considering that the last 20 years of the 20th century, smallpox had officially been eradicated. Number 6, hantavirus. The hantavirus first came to public attention in the Western world in 1993 when a man and his fiancée died within days of developing respiratory problems. Health authorities isolated the virus from a deer mouse months later and discovered that the virus is not passed from person to person, but rather by exposure to the droppings of infected mice. Since 1993, over 600 people have developed hantavirus pulmonary syndrome in the USA, of whom over a third have died. However, a different strain of hantavirus infected around 3,000 troops in the Korean War in the 1950s, killing around 12% of those affected.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Influenza, number 6, 7, I've lost count. Number 7, influenza, the flu. The flu, believe it or not, kills 500,000 people in an average year. So the first simplistic response to that is, yeah, but look at the mortality rates. I mean, just look at this comparison. Sorry, wrong graph. So while it is undeniably true that the mortality rate is higher for this completely new virus, it probably is relevant to bear in mind how many cases there are of influenza each year, how many people influenza kills, and how we've had centuries to adapt ourselves to it. The point being that we just seem to accept that every winter there's going to be a massive purge of humanity. But this new virus comes along and suddenly there's no food in the supermarkets in Venezuela and the Cuban economy has crashed. Oh shit, getting my viruses mixed up again. I meant to say that everyone over 50 in the first world is stockpiling toilet paper and hand soap. First you get the toilet paper, then you get the power. Number 8, dengue. Nearly 500 million people inhabit the subtropical areas of the globe where the dengue virus is endemic. According to the World Health Organization, somewhere between 50 and 100 million people are infected with dengue each year, killing around 2.5% of those who are infected. However, like Ebola and Marburg, it can cause a hemorrhagic fever, in which case the mortality rate rises to 20% when left untreated. Number 9, rotavirus. Affectionately known as the child killer, the rotavirus kills hundreds of thousands of kids worldwide every year. A vaccine against rotavirus now exists and rehydration treatment is normally enough to cure anyone who is unvaccinated. So therefore the problem once again is in poorer countries, and that's probably why here in the West we don't care so much about it anymore.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Now here comes the last one, the last two. It's kind of like 2 in 1. I'm not really sure. I'm not an expert. I'm going to call it 1 because I said 10 other viruses that are more deadly than coronavirus. Number 10, SARS and MERS. This is where everything gets a bit weird and murky. The coronavirus that everyone's speaking about at the moment belongs to the same family as SARS and MERS. They're all a family of viruses known as coronaviruses. Do you remember how when the coronavirus broke out in Wuhan in December, how a few people started saying it had originated in bats? And then everyone went mental saying that if you suggested it had originated in bats that you were a massive racist. Well, guess where SARS originated? Surely not.
I'd say the odds against it would make even the most reckless gambler cringe.
The virus that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, first appeared in 2002 in the Guangdong province of southern China, according to the World Health Organization. The virus likely emerged in bats initially, and then hopped into nocturnal mammals called civets, before finally infecting humans. Okay, SARS, but what about MERS? Surely not. The virus that causes Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS, sparked an outbreak in Saudi Arabia in 2012 and another in South Korea in 2015. The MERS virus belongs to the same family of viruses as SARS coronavirus and SARS coronavirus 2, and likely originated in bats as well. I guess the head of the World Health Organization must be a massive racist. Oh. So how do the other coronaviruses compare to the new coronavirus in terms of mortality and contagiousness? Well, the bad news is the number of cases. It appears to be far more contagious than its cousins, while SARS and MERS do appear to have been far more deadly. Conclusions? I don't know, I haven't got the answer. If you come here looking for an answer, no. This is kind of like when I get on a plane. I'm scared because, 30,000 feet in the air, I think I could be dead any minute. But I just try and convince myself, I'm far more likely to die getting into a crash on my way to work. That's how I go through life. Flu's going to kill me. A heart attack's going to kill me when I'm 70. I don't care about coronavirus. We'll be fine. I hope. Yeah.